do want to touch on something else. I know I'm sucking a lot of oxygen out of the room, folks, and I'm sorry, the first night, all that stuff. There's something called maintenance of effort in the state of Wisconsin. You're gonna be surprised. It's called maintenance of effort. And what that means is a municipality or a town, and this is not a lecture for the audience, it's a discussion with the board. That means if a municipality or a town sets a budget for the library of, and I'm just pulling out a number here, $100,000 this year. The maintenance of effort means we have to maintain, that town has to maintain that budget next year. You cannot provide them with less than that next year. Now, that's both, as we talked earlier, a double-edged sword. What ends up happening to a small town on a tight budget, like we have a situation here, is the town is gonna be extremely careful of building that budget, because every dollar they give under maintenance of effort, they have to give for all infinity under that basis. So they would be extremely careful, because they don't wanna bust their town budget for years to come potentially, because statutorily they couldn't pull it back. I'm gonna cut to the chase here. In my discussions with DPI, I was beyond startled to be told that maintenance of effort no longer applies. That it was taken out of the statutes in 2012 through a budgetary amendment. And they've sent me that information, and I've passed it on to the chairman, and so that's the fact. So that's both a good thing and a difficult thing. The good thing is it frees up small communities and towns on an annualized or year-to-year basis to be able to say, sure, we had a good year, we didn't spend as much money, whatever the deal was, and if the library needs a little more money, we can give them a little more money in their budget because we've got it this year and not have to worry about giving it forever. By the same token, or less. That's correct. That's the other side of it. That's the other side of it. The town board can come back and say, well, no, we had a tough year. Everybody's got to squeeze their budgets down by 10%, and that would apply across the board potentially. So we've yet to cross that bridge. I can't tell you, I do not believe that the town clerk treasurer or the town chairman were aware of that. So that may give us, it'll, again, it's a double-edged sword. It'll give us latitude sometimes, and it may cause us some heartburn other times. I can't explain or project how that will work. Those are the simple facts, however. All right, but I do want to Jeff in particular, look at this, and I think that my perspective would be that we as a board should set a small committee to go meet with the town treasurer and the chairman and sit down and walk through this stuff.
Absolutely.
And what I would like to propose, and I'm gonna ask for a motion on this, I would like to propose that committee is Jeff, myself, and Jackie to go over and meet with the chairman and the town treasurer to discuss the impact of the removal of maintenance of effort and the impact or potential moving of the $8,100 that's coming into the general town library fund from the other counties' efforts. So, do I have a motion to proceed with a committee as suggested?
I make a motion to proceed with the committee.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do I have discussion? John?
Shouldn't there be 3 board members and the library director as an observer or a contributor? But she's not a board member.
No, she's not. But she's most knowledgeable about the process and the flow of the monies. So having her there would in fact be invaluable.
But 3 would be a board committee with them.
I don't think there's any set number for a committee. We can choose to do what we want. I think for this preliminary process, I think having a nice, small, compact, maneuverable committee would probably be the best way to go.
And in my opinion, it's not a political
No,
thing.
not whatsoever. We're
It's a
just,
budgetary thing,
right, we're
it's
just,
clarification.
that is exactly correct. We were just looking for clarification on financial issues.
Understood.
So do I have a motion to move forward in that direction?
I make a motion to proceed with the committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
I abstain.
Okay, John abstains. I think that is it on the questions that I had on, finance and treasury. Library director report, Jackie?
Do we have to,
One and two.
I'm sorry.
minutes,
do we have to
please.
approve the treasurer's report?
That's a good point. If we did not do that, I will ask for a motion to approve the treasurer's report as given by Jeff Holton.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Yeah, it's unanimous.
All right, unanimous. Thanks for catching that, Doctor. All right, now we'll move to the library director report.
Wanted to have the bills approved, and then we can have it directed as to where you want me to send them. We currently have bills for Baker Taylor of $386.04, that's all books. Midwest Tape is $191.65, that is mostly movies. Innovative is $51.64, that is office supplies. Genco of $400.02, that is library supplies. And Cengage is large print books of $69.79.
Jackie's already explained these to me. I have no questions. Does anybody have any questions on the submitted bills? I will say they seem pretty straightforward to me. Do I motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? There you have it. Anything else, Jackie?
Nope, that's all for the bills.
Would this be an appropriate time to ask for votes?
Yes, there is a portion of the library director report regarding new book list. So if you have a question, ask away.
It's basic, and, in this list here, I see books on student-teacher affair. I see books having to do with demons. I see books having to do with feminism. I see books having to, well, I'm not against Jewish mothers, but, Jewish people, vampires, Muslims. Are there no Christian books?
Because of the,
No, yes or no, are there no Christian books?
I buy Christian books whenever I can find one that has good reviews.
That has good reviews? And to whom do you seek reviews?
I get a list of 5-star review books from, the IFLS children's department that looks at all the peer-reviewed magazines, and they put those 5-star reviews together and send it out in an email, and I go according to that.
So 5-star reviews then, not to be, what's that word you use, snarky? Not to be snarky, those 5-star reviews come out for student-teacher affairs, for demons, for feminists, for, more demons, for vampires, but in all the books, no Christian books ever get high marks?
A lot of the Christian books have what's called pedantic. It means that rather than showing you what you should think, it tells you how you should think.
And who makes that determination?
Pardon me?
Who makes that determination?
That is the author and the publisher.
No, wait a second. You just said somebody decides that how they tell you how, okay? Who makes that decision? That's what they're saying.
How it's
The
written.
author may not have had that intent.
How it is written a lot of times is very clerical or very specific. It'll say, oh, the frog jumped over the lily pad, rather than just showing you it happening. So that is what something of library personnel look for a minimization of when it comes to children's books.
Okay,
because
so in other words, these books can preach, but Christian books can't.
these
Big-
books,
No, I think
Here,
we're getting.
let me- The question, John, is regarding, what books were selected, and,
And there are no Christian books selected.
and in any given month, that could happen. Jackie, do we occasionally or frequently, put Christian books in the library?
if I could find a
If-
well-reviewed Christian book, I will buy it, because yes, I feel that that's
But
But
important
the
for
sources you
library
go
too.
to don't necessarily want to recommend Christian books.
That's not what you said.
I'm asking.
I will tell you from what I've learned recently, that with the book banning across the country, a lot of publishers are putting forth more diverse books rather than more safe topics. And so there's a push in the publishing industry for more diverse materials, which limit what libraries have a chance to purchase, other than
So
what's on.
diversity, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, I'm just telling you how I view it. Diversity means anything but Christian.
Diversity means anything that is considered a minority.
Okay, let me interrupt here and ask a question. Jackie, you typically give the board a list of new books on a regular basis. So this would be the list.
That would be the list.
All right, the question I would have for the board is, Jackie's given us a list of books. I assume you type all this text out then, and
I put the list together and then Bella puts the analog, or annotation in.
all right, that's the question I would have for the board. Do we feel we need that, or do we just need a list of books in the category that they fall in, as opposed to a paragraph of what the book is about? Because one of the things I see we need to do is we need to help our employees be more efficient, and this looks like a lot of work to do over the course of time.
I very much think of titles of the books and categories would be.
Title, general
sufficient.
category, something like that, maybe one line if there's any
I
questions.
think we're capable of researching
We can
these
figure it
books.
out.
So
Figure it
how in the world can we see if diversity is in fact the right word, or if bias and prejudice aren't really the word?
If I could just add something too, we hire a library director. We have a policy on material selection, and that has the places to look. We have all this laid out. We've hired a professional to review the books, and I think that's solid.
Then if I may,
Go ahead.
for over a year now, we have been quarreling about books, inappropriate books in this library. And it seems to me there's an agenda with Northern Waters and with this library director that some kind of books are okay as long as they're not Christian books. And it would just seem to me that diversity is really not diversity, it's bias and it's prejudice. And that's my comment. I think it speaks for itself. I don't think I have to defend it. It's clear by the book selection that Christian literature is not welcomed in this library.
So that's your statement.
That's it.
Okay,
I'm
I
gonna-
thought they
I'm
said- could I
and
say
I'm sticking
something?
to
No,
it.
I'm gonna stop us here. I'm gonna say,
I have
That's
a
it.
question for Jackie.
that's your statement, not a question.
Yeah.
Let's ask. if you-
Jackie, do we have a religion section in this library?
Yes, we do.
Spiritual
It's a
studies
200s
section?
we have 200s in nonfiction children, a very small section in young adult, and a fairly large section for adults of 200.
And
which is
any
really
book
good.
that someone wanted to have brought, wants to read, or on the subject of Christian spirituality, they can, if it's not on the shelf, you can order it through the interlibrary loan system, and
Yes.
it'll be here within how long?
Nope, nope,
And
nope,
if
that's
people
fine.
wanna make suggestions, I would take suggestions and I will look for reviews and try to find, and also, along with looking for reviews, I also look to see if theologian colleges have the book. Cause I figure, well, if a theology college has the book, then it must be pretty accurate information.
That was
And
my
I have
Then
to-
as the oldest-
Nope, I'm not gonna give you the floor, John, because what I'm gonna do at this point in time is, this is an agenda discussion about the new book list. We've talked about the new book list. It's not an agenda discussion about, material selection. There's been no books challenged That's not what the agenda is. We're going pretty far afield. I've let it go out so everybody could have their say. And I would like to move along now to old business,
Do we need a motion to, I'm just wondering if we need a motion
to accept the library director's report.
well, but also I don't know if we need a motion for this or not, but I just wanna clarify. For your suggestion of the list making of the new books and categorizing them differently, or do we just
I don't know
say,
if that's,
go ahead and do that?
well, I would ask the board their opinion on it. I think it's just an administrative
Yeah,
process.
does anyone disagree, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
does
I don't know if
anybody disagree? I think if we simply cut this report down from being a narrative to giving us lists of books, the categories they're in, and at best, a sentence of description, we can probably save a number of trees by doing this.
So you've already said that we're paddling underwater where nobody can see,
Yes,
and
we
we're
are.
really spending a lot of energy.
And I'm paddling pretty fast right
And,
now.
and so what you're saying is you're gonna have to paddle faster because in the future, you'll only have titles.
Well, I don't know that, this is just a snapshot out of a 100 to 400 page book anyway. I mean, on any given book, if you pick out any given paragraph, it can give you a correct perspective or a completely incorrect perspective of the balance of the book.
I'm sorry.
So what I'm saying, John, is we're going far. I understand. What you wanna do is you want to discuss, and I understand your issue, I think. You wanna discuss book selection.
No,
In
no, I won't even go-
material selection.
if I may.
This was just the discussion about what are the new books.
Last year, her argument was presented by people on this board that those books could always be requested and brought into this library. And it was voted down. No, we have to have these books in our library. So how come now it's an okay argument? For Christian books, oh, if you wanted to request that, you can, okay? But those books, they're always okay. I find it a double standard, and
Okay,
if I wasn't so stubborn, I'd say you can all just, but I won't say
but you
that.
won't. That's
I
right.
won't say
That's
it.
right.
My
Duly
point of
noted.
asking my question was to make sure that everybody understood that we do have sections for religious studies. We can
Yeah.
get book, I was asking, can someone order any book that they like on any subject that has to do with Christianity, whether it's a child's book or a young adult book or an adult book? It can be, ordered for the library if there's something new out there that's getting good reviews from, good, strong theological sources. Like you wouldn't get a car maintenance book from somebody who writes theater plays. You'd get a theology book that's reviewed by people who are theologians. So we know we have children's books and young adult books and
These are
adult books.
mostly novels. They're not technical.
Excuse me,
they're
I'm
not-
talking, John, thank you. Thank you. That those books can be brought in, and they can be brought in quickly. That was my question.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, okay.
now, we're gonna move along. We've had our new book, we've talked about our list of new books. And then
You want me to tell about the programs?
I would like to hear about the programs because that's the last thing on the list.
Okay. This coming Saturday, we are having retired teacher and amateur geologist Eileen Freiberger. She was gonna be discussing rocks and geodes at 10 a.m. on Saturday the 20th. Each child will receive a geode to crack open and be able to see what's inside. Again, that program's on Saturday at 10 a.m. August 17th, we are actually hosting 2 programs. That'll be our last summer program with the Great Lakes Aquarium visiting at 10 a.m. And that will be followed by pizza from the pizza parlor. That will be done by noon, and then between noon and 2 p.m., we are having a celebration of the anniversary of the women's right to vote. And we are gonna have a mini Friends book sale. The League of Women Voters will be here to assist people to register and to find out what's on their ballot so people can do their research. And we will have displays inside about suffrage and voting and history and civic education available as well.
What's
So-
the date? I'm sorry, the date?
That's going to be on August 17th. And I just wanna mention one last thing, for those of you who remember Bob Evans shooting for the Guinness Book of World Records on March 23rd, excuse me. He has been deemed the record holder at 84 rotations while juggling clubs. So Iron River Public Library is going to be in the book next year for the Guinness Book of World Records.
That's
So thanks
awesome.
to Bob Evans. So, okay, that's all I got.
All right, thank you, Jackie. Now I'm gonna move over to old business. Question that has come up repeatedly that I've seen in the old minutes regarding the minutes process. And I wanna be really careful here because, and again, discussions like this are administrative, they're not aimed at an employee or a board member or whatnot. Personally, one of the things I heard when I did a lot of discussions with library staff is that they got a lot of stuff to do. Jackie's got a lot of stuff to do. A lot of it's minutia, it's small stuff that eats them up all day long. Well, that makes me, first of all, wanna figure out how to make her more efficient and her job easier. When I look at the minutes, and I know Jackie's been involved in the minutes processing, I have to tell you, in every board I've ever been on, that's a secretary's job. And I think that's where it should fall. And I think the secretary produces the minutes, distributes the minutes for review, and we as a board get them and take them from there. I don't understand or why we wanna put this in Jackie's hands, and if somebody wants to walk that through or explain it to me differently, because I would suggest, we've got a secretary, she does the minutes, she produces the minutes, she sends them out to the board, we review, we either get approved or amended and approved, and that's the end of the story. Am I missing something?
I will admit, when we were looking for the secretary, it was hard to find someone that was willing to do that. Barbara did say at the time that she, did not have a computer to be able to print those up. I did offer at that time to do it in order to get a secretary on the board.
And I appreciate you digging up for more, stop doing that. You're too busy.
And I do have a printer and a
So you,
computer, yeah.
so as a secretary, you're gonna tell us you're capable of handling this at this point in time going forward.
Yes, and I spend many hours doing it, but I
All right.
like it,
All
I
right.
enjoy it.
Okay, thank you. So that's how we'll handle that process going forward. All right, the County Library Technology Program, you have a copy of that information in here. I think Jackie can validate this. Jackie and I and Dr. Sarian had a meeting a week or so ago, and on the way out, Jackie caught me and said, we have a grant that's due tomorrow. What are we gonna do about it? So the bottom line is, I believe the board has talked about this before. This is a grant, that's the one. This is a grant, or a program more so than a grant. Coming, I believe, Jackie, it's through the state, but the county is fronting it. Whereby their initiative is to put technology, laptops and iPads into our libraries. 10 of each was the initial proposal. And then they would be hiring, the county, a technology person that would be a traveling technology person that would go from library to library on a schedule and would show people how to use this stuff, give them advanced lessons, beginning lessons, allow them to utilize it for their personal access, etc. Based on the fact that there was a gun held to our head on the clock perspective, I decided to go with the old ask for forgiveness as for permission, because there was no way in the world I could quickly pull the board together fast enough with enough public notice to make that decision. So I authorized Jackie at that point in time to go forward and send a letter of interest, which is all we've done to this point, to Mark Allison, that we're interested in pursuing it. So I'm just making you aware of that. I'm sure it'll come back to be finalized. I cannot see why we would not want to do this. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, if I may.
Sure.
Some of you may not know, but I was on the library board here, and I remember from basically the beginning of, pre-renovation through the renovation process, about 6 years, like in 2 terms. And when we did a survey, we sent out a survey to everybody, about the library, asking them if they thought we should do an expansion, and if so, why, and what were the things that they used, and if not, why, and what was it perfectly fine. Overwhelmingly, overwhelmingly up in the like probably 98% response rate was, yes, we would love an expansion, and these were the things that people said that they wanted. So we included that in the process of expanding the library. It was more computers, more ebooks, access to interlibrary loan, more, more of everything that the public library services and system offers. That's what the people want, and so I'm personally fully on board
I think
with
it's
getting
a-
more tablets and more tech support.
I think it's a good idea. I will point out that if I read
Based
it,
on public need and response.
if I read it correctly, it's a 2-year program. So I don't know what happens at the end of the 2 years. I guess in 2 years we figure that one out and see what happens. But obviously, if at the end of 2 years we get to keep the equipment, awesome. If we don't get to keep the equipment, at least we have a gauge of what we need, we want, and ask for, chase down in grants, because we see what the utilization is. Hopefully in 2 years, people that want to use this stuff that don't have it have been able to come in and have been educated on how to use it, and we'll better know what the demand is for it.
It says loan devices.
Correct.
So you will keep your-
You never know how that works in the back end sometimes, John, in these programs. That's what they say up front, and when they're all done with it, they don't know what to do with it, and they just let you keep them.
The
So,
question would be technology-wise, the space, that where they describe the space that would be needed for the equipment to operate the
that's a great
technology.
question, Jan, because that was a question I asked Jackie. In fact, that was one of the only questions I asked Jackie.
Right.
Do we have the space to accommodate this? She said, because these things are put on rolling, I think there's in there
It
somewhere.
was a picture,
There's a
yeah.
picture
Yeah.
of the rolling cabinets that they would be in, that we would utilize when the technology person was here, we would utilize the conference room. And if we needed to move that equipment out of there, we would roll it into our back room, and, because those things would be portable. They did have an offer of, I think if you read through it, you could get the rolling, they proposed either the rolling cabinets or shelves. We would certainly opt for the rolling cabinets to make them more portable. So Jackie felt we had plenty of space to accommodate it, and then we could secure them in the back room if we needed to. So the bottom line is we will likely hear more about that going forward. We've just initiated the letter of interest to them. The next one is, and this one's gonna be a little more go ahead.
Does that need board approval, or?
Well, that's a great question, as I've already authorized the letter and sent it out, it's out the door. So if the board feels they wanna retroactively approve that, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, but, we could always reject it, so I think passing something that we endorse it is nice to have. So
I
if
will
it
ask.
goes through or doesn't go through, we've still endorsed it at the board.
Fair enough. I will ask for a motion then to approve the sending of a letter of interest regarding the County Library Technology Program.
I make a motion to approve.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in
Is
favor?
that-
Whoops, I'm
You,
sorry.
in the future, you will be making those decisions before the board has a chance to look it over.
No, in the future, I would bring it to the board. In this particular case, we were in a 24-hour window where we couldn't have even possibly convened a library board member or meeting because we would have been out of compliance with open meeting laws notification. We had to give, we were already within the 24-hour submission deadline. So I simply, as I said, asked for forgiveness, not permission, and made the executive decision to say, sure, I don't think there was any harm or foul because there's actually not a lot of commitment here. We've said yes. If we wanna say no as we move through this process going down the line, we can easily do that.
So, I'm sorry, can we hear the motion again, like what it was, please, in terms of the word, like what it is exactly? So is it just being, we're approving or of the pursuing of this
Make a motion
technology?
to approve the initiated program letter. He approved that, he sent a letter saying we approve of that, but now we have to approve
The
that he sent the
technology
letter.
program.
Yeah.
Technology program letter of interest,
Approve, endorse?
whatever you like.
Hey, endorse it,
Initiated.
sounds good.
Endorse.
All right, make it endorsed. We've got a motion, we've got a second. Any more discussion?
If I may,
Go ahead.
I was a salesman for a long time.
Me too.
Then you know, one of the nicest things to do is to tell somebody they gotta decide today.
I get it. This was something that's been out there for the previous boards. as I understand, there was not definitive action taken on it. I cannot explain that. I can only say that that was the corner I was backed into. It seemed to be the prudent decision, mostly because it seems like there is really no obligation, that we can easily get out of this if we need to. I would normally never make a decision outside of the board's review and or approval, just so everybody on the board understands that. Is that good for you, John?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No, from John. All right, moving on. Now we've got the Bayfield County Building Strong Libraries Program. Jackie had previously sent this information out to everybody.
Every year, this is a grant that is offered through Bayfield County, because when they reimburse us for library service, they only reimburse us at 70%. Now, the other 30%, they try to provide to libraries through this grant. So we can put in a request for certain things. They have a list that a lot of more are capital projects, things that are not just materials. So for instance, an example, this Tranquility thing was last year's request. It's not something that we would buy again. It's a one-time deal, and it works for something beyond library materials. So this year, because we were under the gun, I asked to have the fence that we had
The Friends fence,
thank you, a fence for, I can't think of the
the
word.
Callahan property, the
Yes,
border.
for the Callahan property, that we had a guesstimate of how much it's gonna cost. Cause I need to provide that to the grant. In addition to that, cause I didn't have anything else, I put in 2 outdoor musical instruments. One being a Congo drums that I showed you a picture of, as well as a xylophone. Both of those would be instruments that would be outside, permanent, part of the request. Since that time, we have received a roof estimate that I feel and Rich feels would supersede the instruments. So instead of asking for the fence and the instruments, I would like to ask for the fence and the roof. This is a year to put forth a larger request, because I called all the libraries and only one other library in Bayfield County is putting forth a request for this grant.
Wow.
So we could request a larger sum.
So before I ask for comments, I want to follow up on that last point. That's the germane point. You know, Jackie's checked with the other libraries. I've checked with the county administrator. First of all, it is a hard stop on July 26th. They won't give us any more latitude. We have to make a decision by then, or, you know, we're looking at grant horses, they say in the mouth. Jackie's checked with the other libraries. They have no major proposals coming in. Mark at the county told me that there's a pool of about $50,000 overall. So if we're gonna ask for a bigger grant, with the best chance of success, this might be the year to do it. Jackie had originally proposed the fencing, and I've got a question on that based on some of the stuff in the minutes. But also proposed these 2 outdoor instruments. When these were sent out to the board members, I did get some significant responses, and I have to be fair. The first thing I'll say, I'm not an artsy guy. So keep that in mind. When I looked at these instruments, I'm just kind of a practical guy sometimes. The first thing I thought is, we're gonna put 3 conga drums and a xylophone out here. And I looked, there's a residence behind the building. There's a residence
And right over there.
next to it. There's a residence across the street. So first thing I would ask is, on those, if we're gonna do those, if we were interested in those, have we checked with those residences to make sure they're okay with the noise? I get that these things end up in parks and stuff. We don't really have a park there. We have a small residential lot with a carriage house on it. Our former library board president, in my discussion with her, and said, and then when you look down the street, there's all those bars. Which is exactly right. I can only imagine what's gonna happen at 2 o'clock in the morning, especially after a Packer game when there's a set of conga drums there. So bang on the drums all night it's gonna be, and that's the question. The other thing that struck me on the drums, or on the instruments, is it's two instruments to the tune of $11,000. And again, I'm a kind of a black and white guy and not very artsy or creative, but I just could not believe that for $11,000, our little library was not in need of other things. Now, we've got the fencing on there, and the only question, and the fencing's great. The only question I've got on the fencing is, wasn't the Friends gonna kick in a portion on that fencing? So how would we think about putting this application in on this grant if the fencing is $7,000 and the Friends of the Library is gonna donate $4,000 to upgrade? Is that $4,000 of the 7,000?
Yeah,
Or
it was-
4,000 on top of the 7,000?
No, it was 4,000, it was the difference between a chain link fence and the fence that we have there in that estimate.
And I'm all for the nicer fence, but I guess I just wanna clarify. So it's not, we're not investing 7,000 and the Friends is giving us 4, so we've got an $11,000 fence.
No.
So then that begs the question, if we're gonna load this fence into the grant,
Yes.
and the fence cost is, Jan already knows where I'm going, and the fence is $7,000, but it's really gonna only net out to $3,000 in the grant, cause we're getting 4,000 from the Friends of the Library. How do we wanna handle this? I mean, do we want the Friends of the, I mean, if we can get, I would think, we wanna load the full $7,000 request into the grant.
I would say to load the money into the grant. And
Absolutely.
The question I have about that is that the grant, is it all or nothing? So if the roof and the fence goes in, do they either approve both, or could they approve half of it?
Yeah, they approve it or they don't, and I have yet, in the 7 years I've been here, they have yet to not approve them.
Oh, that's good. And then the Friends money could be used for a different project.
Well, and I kinda have an idea on that one already too. I brought over I just had a roof put on my house and my 2 garages. I personally went out and got 6 bids, cause I'm OCD. I got a guy that came highly recommended by 4 different people, including the lumberyard. He beat everybody's estimate by $8,000 to $12,000. And yes, I can give you the reference, it's gonna cost you. Did a great job, got all 3 of my structures done in 3 days. I brought him over here yesterday to look at our building, and because it's steeper, because there is a lot, although it isn't a huge building, there is a lot of shingle cutting that needs to occur, because there's a lot of, I don't know what it's called, edging 1-row shingles that gotta be cut out of the bundles of shingles. So there's a lot of, plus it is incredibly steep all the way around. So it's more time consuming, it's more timely. And to be honest with you, I asked him to give me a bid for the better materials at the top end, because Jackie and I discussed that, so we got probably a little higher bid. Because again, this will not happen until next year, and if material costs go up, I don't want us to get caught short on the deal. My thought, Jeff, was exactly that. We asked for the 7, by the way, the bid was $14,500. We asked for the 7, we asked for the 14.5. Based on what Jackie's telling me, it sounds like that is not an unreachable number in this grant.
Yeah.
Because nobody else has got a big thing out there. And if we get less, or if it costs more, then we can defer to our Friends of the Library for that generously offered pot of $4,000 to
Yeah.
backfill anything we've got.
And that could be, so, I mean, just from my own point of view, I'm all for whimsy and making things creative and things, but foundational things are really important.
I
You know,
agree.
like
It's gonna need
roofs,
a
and
roof.
we own a building, let's take care of it and do, it's not as glamorous, but it's really nice to take care of it. And then figure out how to do some more creative and interesting
Well, the
things.
roof's clearly important because it protects the rest of the building.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, otherwise, why have a building?
and frankly, if you look at the program guidelines and what it can be used for, which is under number 1, it's pretty wide open. There's a lot of stuff that could be, you could buy a lawnmower if you
Capital
wanted to. I'm sorry?
capital investment.
Generally.
I'm
So,
sorry.
So if I may, I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
well, go ahead, Jim.
Oh, John,
No, discuss Jan.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
if I may suggest, the Lions may not approve of this, but I know that when I was in the Lions Club, we built that beautiful little park over by the police station there in town, by the community center. And that might be, in terms of, because I am an artsy gal, Again, we know that the value of it for kids, music and learning, things like that, in different environments for development. That might be something to approach, maybe a combination of Friends of the Library combining with the Lions Club to provide those instruments over there, where it could
That's a
be,
great idea.
you know,
Yeah.
where it would be enjoyed by the kids, and, you know, where it's not too close to too many houses and
Well, that's
no
exact-
bars.
That's exactly correct. It is fairly isolated, and I go in and out of the
VFW is
town offices all the time.
Yeah.
And every time I see a family, with kids over there playing, well, not every time, but many times, I go over and ask them, how do they like this? Is there more we can do? Is there anything different? People are generally thrilled with it. They're happy to have it, and Jan is exactly right, I never gave that a thought. That would be an ideal place to put something like this, because it is segregated away from residences. The VFW is there, but that's not gonna be an issue, I don't think. So it might be a little more appropriate there, but, on the Building Stronger Libraries grant, is there any more discussion?
I have one.
Go ahead, Jan.
The bookkeeping. We're gonna request the whole amount, and then maybe we're gonna get $4,000 extra. How do we square that so somebody can't come back and say, well, you really didn't need the whole amount?
If we don't use the whole amount, then it just gets sent back to the county.
So if it's 7,000 and we end up getting 4, then we send that 4,000 back to the county?
No, if it's, I think you did that one backwards. If the bill were 4,000, but we got 7, arguably 3 would go back to the county. I would suggest to you, in the building process, we're gonna probably make it 7. Because if we have that latitude, if the bid comes in for some reason less, or we see it's less, we can upgrade materials. We can do things,
Upgrade materials, add a few more features or.
we can do things to burn up that grant.
And I-
$200 hammers.
You know, yeah, the
I think that's
300
built into the process of the grant application too, is the final coming back around and saying, producing the receipts.
Sure,
And the amount of
it
money
is.
was
You
given to
have
the
to
town,
prove-
that they will expect the money back.
You will have to prove it,
There is
you will
a-
have to
Yep.
prove what you spent. I think there's also an expectation that if we do this for next year, pricing structures change. So if we've got the full amount of the grant, if the pricing runs over, we arguably have a backup with the Friends of the Library $4,000 pool. And you know what, if we don't, I would suggest for the capital improvements we're making, we can figure out how to pay for it, because those are pretty important capital improvements, I believe. So any more discussion? I'm then gonna ask for a motion to have Jackie submit the grant for building strong libraries, inclusive of the $7,000 for fencing and $14,500 for roofing.
I make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'm abstaining because I don't understand.
And 1 abstention. Okay, moving on.
I'm sorry, if I can just clarify one thing, we're talking about asking for
$21,500. Which, out of a $50,000 pool,
It's like half.
if
Oh, yeah.
nobody, yeah, but if Jackie is correct in her scouting mission, which was really a smart thing to do, go out and find out who else is putting in for it, and if nobody else has anything on the draft board this year, now's the time to roll the dice to get the grant. And I think the county would approve that. I mean, we're not trying to pull a fast one on anybody, we're just trying to maximize the grant. And I think this is the exact intent of the county, is to build a stronger library. We've invested already over $50,000 in that property next door, and obviously with an intent of using it and developing it for programs and usage in the future.
I just wanna let the board know that 25% of that the library has to pay. Just so everyone's aware.
That's correct, and I guess I should have made that infinitely clear.
25% of the
It's a
21,000.
it's a 75-25 basically challenge grant. And by the way, therein is where the plug-in of the Friends money could potentially be utilized. And again, as we move this thing forward, I think we can look at our budgeting process and try and account for a backup for that going into next year. So is everybody good to go forward here?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
I'm gonna move on to, the old business item of Northern Waters Library Board correspondence meeting. Almost immediately after my appointment, I moved to cancel that meeting. The board was requesting a public meeting of Northern Waters here. I'm sorry, I'm a business guy, that doesn't sound like a public meeting, it sounded like it was gonna be a contentious public, brouhaha, and I don't think that's in anybody's best interests. I think in the little I've seen and what I've uncovered, I do have some questions about our relationship with Northern Waters Library System. That does not mean I wanna throw the baby out with the bathwater. It means I wanna meet with them. I wanna understand what our issues are. If we have bumps in the road or differences of perspectives, let's identify them, let's sit down, let's talk them out, and let's get us on a better operational plane. That's simple. To that point, I've sent a letter out to Northern Waters asking for a meeting. I do know that one of our board members has put in 3 or 4 calls to Northern Waters asking for the same. This process has been going on. Now, I gotta be fair, she responded within about 10 days to my letter. I don't believe there's any response been given to the calls. Again, I'm not trying to prejudice the board, I'm not trying to point fingers. That does suggest to me on a business perspective, we need to look into our relationship and why we are not communicating better. It's just that simple. Maybe we're missing something, maybe somebody's not getting a connection. So what I'm gonna suggest is Northern Waters came back and basically told me in an email that they'd be happy to meet over the phone, and it should only be the 2 of us, and that way we won't develop a walking quorum, whatever my preference is. I'm gonna suggest to the board, my preference is still to show up with myself, potentially 2 people from our board, so we stay under the quorum requirements and don't violate open meeting laws, and go over to Ashland and meet with them face to face, because my perspective is, just in my experience, a face-to-face meeting is always more productive. You get more done, you get to meet the people, you develop a personal relationship to some extent. We should not be in an adversarial relationship with this vendor. This is our biggest technology vendor, they're extremely important to us. I understand right now they're busy, they are going through a merger of library systems, so you may be pushing out, but I think that's the best venue to get together with them and ask our questions and get our feedback. So I would open it up to any thoughts, comments, feedback from the board on that.
Well, I'd like to be one of those people because I do have a lot of questions. And I'd like to be there and.
Okay, when we get to that point, I'll certainly keep that in mind.
If I may,
Go ahead, Jan.
just share something from Sherry Anderson, who works for Northern Waters Library Service. And this is from her. Northern Waters Library Service provides financial and logistical support. Contributions include collection, development funds, interlibrary loan services, technological assistance, access to e-resources, cataloging expertise, continuing education opportunities. These services offer a substantial cost benefit for our libraries. Northern Water Library Services leverages purchasing power to offer a wide range of services at a fraction of the cost. Iron River Library's annual NWLS membership cost is approximately $12,000, or in that range, provides access to services that a recent cost-benefit analysis estimated would be $1.23 million to replicate independently. So just so that everybody's clear about the different services that Northern Waters provides to our county libraries.
I've got a good handle on that. Thanks for that, Jan. I think that that goes without saying. They're indispensable to us in many ways. And let's face it. Again, I'm a business guy. If I could shop them and get a better deal, I'd do it. I don't think there's any other vendors that could give us a better deal.
I would just like to comment on the process that you're suggesting. And that is, this is obviously potentially, we have some real different opinions on this board about what is Northern Waters, what do they do, what don't they do, and why we shouldn't have them, should have them, whatever. So I think this process should be very transparent. In other words, the idea that all of us have a chance to propose, well, however it works, I don't think is as critical as the fact that it's transparent and that we all have input into what is going to be said and the questions that are going to be asked, and also what happened in the meeting. Whether I'm there or not, I would like to truly understand what was asked and what exactly happened. Because without that transparency, you're going to find, in my opinion, it's gonna be you and a couple of people, and then if this is a big issue. So transparency is all I'm asking for, that we all have input as to what the agenda of it is, and then the feedback and the reality of what actually happened.
I, A, have no problem with it, and B, would expect nothing less. I mean, that's why I would suggest, as opposed to taking the meeting forward as they've offered and suggested to me one-on-one, this is gonna be the crux of my argument coming back to them, why I need to show up with at least 2 of the library board members with me, so that we can have, you know, a more diverse committee, get different viewpoints, and certainly, in setting up that meeting, once we can figure out how to work the format out and get it set up, if in fact they take the meeting, come back to the board and have the board put out any and all questions that they want. We'll itemize them and take them along with us. And I think, Jeff, you know, let me put it to you this way. I just work in my world. My world is pretty black and white and adult sometimes. And I know we're all supposed to believe we're nonpartisan. We are not. We're not nonpartisan. We have people who are liberal, we have people that are conservative, we have people on either side of the middle. I recognize that. I think we all recognize that. And I think I would tell you my commitment is to make sure I show up with a diverse representation of our board, so all opinions get picked. And in fact, I'd be more than happy to let the board themselves choose who those 2 people may be. We're not gonna be making decisions at that meeting, so it's just gonna be a discussion point. I have no intent or desire to turn it into an inquisition of any sort. Because again, there's a practical aspect here. We need them. Arguably, we cannot function without them, and there's no other alternatives. So, your path in front of you is pretty well set. My biggest interest and intent is to work out what seems to be, from what I've seen, is some difficulties in communication. Just that simple. And I could go into those examples, but I really don't want to belabor it right here. I think those are questions to ask of them, and I think that absolutely, I'm in lockstep with you on having a diverse group go and make it as public as possible. Would I like to have a public meeting with them so all the board can sit there? That means we're in a public setting, and I'm gonna guarantee you they're not gonna agree to do that.
Well,
Yeah.
I think, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think it's very reasonable. We have a business relationship with them as an organization. We pay them money to provide services, so it's reasonable to ask for a sit down with them on occasion, to have them explain anything we're confused about, any new things that have come up that might affect how this library operates, or, you know, just to say, yeah, let's talk, let's meet, you know.
I agree, and that's my whole intent. Again, I just look at it
We're
as a
customers.
That's right, I just look
So-
at it as a black and white business exchange here, and that's it. John? I'm sorry.
The county is
Yes,
customers.
Jessica?
Yeah, I guess just in addition to that,
always-
and I think that makes a lot of sense to do that, but I just want to make sure that that even the representatives that go before that happens, to have a system of having everybody's
I agree.
questions, everybody's concerns should get to that meeting. Whatever side people might be on or not on, or whatever, is like,
Can I
make sure we
suggest-
represent that.
Actually, let me jump in. I would look at it as going at it in one of 2 ways. If granted that audience by Northern Waters, I'd come back and ask the board via email and blind copy, who's interested in going, who you recommend going, put your questions together, or as an alternative to that, schedule and execute a special board meeting. to address it. So we could go either way. I have no intent to make this call myself, that's why I'm bringing it up. Hang on. Wendy?
I
Sorry.
just wanna say what I said when I first heard about this meeting. As a new person on the board, I have a lot to learn, and I think that that is a place that there's a lot of education available. And I strongly feel that the library board cannot not transact business because we're worried about a public meeting. I mean, like Jan, I totally believe Northern Waters is a vendor. We pay them for the services that they render, and I don't know why they wouldn't be more than happy to be at a meeting and explain what their offerings are. I'm not familiar with what has gone on, why there's a problem with communication. So I guess I might be at a loss there, but I feel strongly the entire board should be part of that meeting. Because I think that when you ask questions, a lot of times the answers to those questions lead to more questions. And to have 3 representatives, I think it could be a lot better dealt with as a full board. Thank you.
In many ways, I don't disagree, Wendy, but the thing we run into in an open meeting situation is if we're gonna have a quorum there, it's gotta be a public meeting, anybody can show. We would likely have to schedule it in a different venue because we will not have the room to handle it. And it would be my guess, and I don't wanna speak for them, that they would not be amenable to that. That they're gonna wanna have they're already pushing back. I asked to show up with a person or two. And the original pushback I got is we'll do it over the phone, we won't do it in person, and we'll do it with you.
And
Well,
does
I'm gonna ask for more than that.
Does that have anything to do with the miscommunication or lack of communication that's in the comments, the derogatory comments that I've borne witness to in the audience?
Well, that's a good point, but until I can ask them that question, I don't know. And until we can meet with them, I can't ask the question, or our representatives can't ask those questions.
Okay, I just
No,
made my opinion
I understand what you're saying.
heard, and so, I mean, I don't get to make the decisions on the board, we
No,
got
no.
it,
You don't get to make the decisions, you get to have a vote, but you get to have your input.
yes, thank you.
Guys, John's
Go ahead.
been.
If I understand you correctly, for every $12 we spend with Northern Waters, they're going to give us $1,000 worth of services. I'll take 2 of those.
Okay,
Okay, hang on a second. Is there any way they will break down what they mean when they say we get how many millions of dollars?
The current estimate that they put out was $1.23 million.
I'd like to see a breakdown of how they do that, because that's an amazing return on investment.
Exactly. They've been
Okay.
doing this for 75 years, so they've
I would
really
actually-
the system
then-
out.
I would actually like to move away from this argument.
But
because
if I may, I'd just say, could we have, like, maybe there's a way to compromise on this meeting idea with them in terms of how many people go, and if they say we can have 2 people, 1 person, could we say, like you say, send out an email and ask, okay, what are the questions that you would like to have answered? What is your specific question? We can even send them the list of questions and have them answer it via
We do that
email.
ahead of time, sure.
So in other words, what I was bringing up has just been under the carpet.
No,
No, it's
no,
one of the
you-
questions.
No,
It's
you
one of
asked your question, and that's a fair question that could be loaded into the
Then my
question.
only other question is, what are we going to do as a board if they say no to the meeting?
I guess we will discuss that at that point in time. I'm not a futurist, I can't predict it.
I really just have a question. I think I'm hearing what you're saying, Wendy, because I feel like what is the problem with the public being at this meeting?
I don't have a
So
problem.
I think, and also to say we aren't going to do it because they might not attend. Let's see if they would attend. So I kind of feel like, and I also agree with the idea that a question leads to other questions, because I think a lot of us have our own feelings and thoughts. We can submit them, but it's different when it's a whole conversation, and I feel like this has been a powerful enough topic to just, let's have it, let's do it.
A, this-
And,
I'm
you know,
sorry. A, this is a
They don't
powerful
have to.
topic. They're probably our biggest vendor. Any doubt about that, Jackie? They're our biggest vendor. They're important to us in many ways. I don't disagree, but the feedback I've gotten says they don't wanna do that. Now, I will go back to them any way the board votes or suggests me to go back to them. If you wanna have it at Lambeau Field, I'll ask them that.
That's
I
right.
don't have the I guess my preference would be we do it face to face in some manner, but, the fact of the matter is, it's a board decision. I will go back and ask them for the meeting on whatever grounds the board decides is a majority you wanna do.
Is the question that we don't understand the services that they provide? Is that what the issue is? That the majority of the board doesn't understand what Northern Waters Library Services does?
I can't speak for everybody on the board, Jan, I can only speak for myself. I think I have a fairly good handle on the services that Northern Waters provides. I'm concerned about some of the communication processes. For example, I didn't really wanna go into this. For example, when I sent the letter to DPI showing that we are now compliant and asked them to take us out of compliance, and I sent that on July 1st, DPI literally, and DPI has been awesome, by the way, they've responded literally immediately, within 24 hours and everything. Came back and said, yeah, you're not, we sent that to Northern Waters on May 16th. Well, Northern Waters is the one who submitted the letter to DPI indicating that we were out of compliance, and I will tell you, they did that pretty quickly. I believe without the board being fully informed about that, because that's what I was told by the previous president. She was not happy how that process worked. So they immediately, and I will tell you, I don't think the school superintendent to this day is happy how that process worked. So they immediately wrote the letter of non-compliance, and yet I look at it, and I'm just trying to be as fair as possible. If this was a business situation, my first question is, why 6 weeks later, after you were notified we weren't in non-compliance, and that's kind of a big issue for us, weren't we notified of that?
So back to the idea of how we're going to go about doing that. That's some of the topics. So you have some topics, and I think all of us
Sure.
have different kinds of feelings. And so I would like to throw out the idea of having, let's say, a letter from our board to them to both Northern Waters, and what you're saying too is the idea, and we discussed this as a board earlier, about about having a representative from DPI as well, like that they've communicated. I've communicated with them about things. Have both of them, even if the DPI person is not coming from Madison, they're on the phone, and we have a face-to-face, and our board sends them a letter, and we have a meeting, and they come, and we should be able to say you should be able to say what you have to say to them, and the same with all of us. We should all hear it. We should all be able to comment. They should be able to comment. I don't know why we're afraid of that.
Well, I'm not afraid of it. My perspective there would be our vendor issue or questions are with Northern Waters, not DPI.
Okay.
DPI is actually the overseer of Northern Waters to an extent. So-
Correct.
So I think we need to deal, my personal perspective is we need to deal with our immediate vendor as opposed to bringing mom and dad into the process as well.
So then it does boil down to this: are they a vendor in service to us, or are they big brother cops making sure that we do things according to their agenda?
No, they are a vendor to us providing services. They do provide us with oversight, and they do have a responsibility.
How is that not a conflict of interest? They're here to sell us stuff, and they're also here to monitor what we do.
Well,
No.
it's more so than sell. They provide us with a service and access to technology that we likely could not get anywhere else, so we're happy to get it. By the same token, they do have a responsibility, when they see things that are out of compliance with state statutes or DPI regulations, to bring that to attention. Now, I think that's part of our question, at least part of mine. Well, how does that process work, and how do you do that?
Absolutely.
Why would you go
Absolutely.
immediately to DPI? That would be my question in the whole Carl Moran issue. Why would you go immediately to DPI as opposed to come to us and say, hey, what's going on? And give us a chance to move to correct that.
And Jackie said they advise, they don't direct, but if they're to advise us, they should have advised us that we were out of compliance. We knew nothing about it for such a long time, we were all in shock when we finally got that letter. So their job really should be to include us, not go above
So
us.
if I can, as opposed to,
You could make a motion.
yeah, if I can, as opposed to, you know, beating it to death with a stick here, that would be the purpose of the next meeting and whatnot. So, do I have a motion or
Yes.
direction or words of wisdom from the board as to how you would like to move on
I
this?
was words of wisdom? Yes. Thank you for bringing up words of wisdom. I've been on the board longer than anybody else. I may have an insight or two that maybe the newbies don't have, okay? And one of those is for a year, Northern Waters has been offering, how did you word it? Suggestions to the library director. Well, I'm curious, what is a vendor doing giving us suggestions, and how many of those suggestions has our library director put into effect?
Well, Johnny, if I could, I'm gonna do my best on this one. I've used this comparison before, and it is not exact, don't go there. Northern Waters is sort of in a situation where the library in and of itself is. The library operates as a sphere within a sphere, sort of like the Native American tribes. They are subject to our laws and rules, and yet they are a sovereign nation and have their own. Northern Waters sort of operates on a bilateral basis. They serve both as a vendor and as a consultant in a conduit to DPI. It is an unusual situation. It's not your normal, I'm selling you telephones and I service your telephones and that's the end of it. I don't tell you how to use them, sort of thing. So there is in fact more to it. It is a complex relationship. There's no two ways about it.
Absolutely.
I think the only question here is that we've had some communication hiccups and we need to go back through and work that stuff out.
And also, it's possible that they could clarify what they're doing in communications, so it's whether.
Absolutely.
So, and those are questions. So I would like to make a motion that we, send a letter from this board to Northern Waters to request as soon as possible a, meeting in person with Sherry, or, she's the only person who would be designated, with the head of Northern Waters to come and discuss what they do and to answer our questions.
And
That's kind of long, but
informational meeting.
informational meeting, from both sides, a discussion.
I'm just writing here for a second, hang on.
Especially in light of the new board members.
Yeah.
that have been-
Well, plus the fact they're in the middle of a merger anyway, and there may be pertinent information that we need to get at this point in time. I would wanna know that because again, they're our major vendor and if something's gonna change, we need to know it. So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Second.
All right, you take your choice. Any discussion?
Let's just be careful not to make it look like a summons.
Well, I don't want it to
No,
look
A
like a public.
summons to start your.
No,
Exactly, I don't want it to look like a public.
Let's be careful to.
Right, that it's,
My concern is I don't want it to look like a public inquisition.
That's kind of what I meant.
So,
It's,
yeah,
that's
I
right.
just wanna raise
shouldn't be.
so,
potential concern.
any more discussion, other discussion, feedback? I'm gonna move to a vote, all in favor of sending a letter to the head of Northern Waters asking for an informational meeting with our full board, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and are you sending the letter?
We'll get to that.
Well, I won't say aye unless I know who sends it.
Okay, well, let's back off of the vote then, let's, if I can invalidate the motion for the time being, cause we're gonna amend it. Good with that, Jeff?
Good with that.
All right.
We should decide who's
How-
writing.
how-
who's
It's a
how-
long motion.
Who's writing.
Yes, it's gonna get there.
It's gonna get shorter.
Well, welcome to the board.
Oh, I know, yeah.
All right, who would we suggest wants to write the letter? And at that point in time, I'm gonna assume we're all gonna wanna review it.
I make a motion that Rich writes the letter.
I second it. Can I just add before we, oh, no, sorry,
No, I was gonna say,
discussion.
this is getting complicated. We're making a motion to write the letter. I think we need to wrap the motion of writing the letter into who's writing it all in the same motion. So what I'm gonna suggest is, A, we have a discussion and decide who's gonna be writing the letter, and then we wrap it all together. Is that fair enough? Clear enough for everybody?
The question I have is, it doesn't matter to me who writes it, but the review is important. So is there a way we can review it without having a walking meeting?
Yeah, I believe that whoever gets designated to write the letter sends it out under a blind copy to everybody, and everybody replies directly back to the author. The author compiles it and sends it out once again under blind copy for final review.
Sounds good.
I think that,
And is this letter just requesting a meeting?
yes,
Okay.
Yes.
How do you wanna handle John with, his items just to be mailed, or how would you like that?
I guess we'll work that one out. We've worked it out for the years he's been on the board. We'll
Okay.
sort through that one. What typically I've done to communicate with John is I will send my emails out blind copy to the people on the board as you've received them from me. Then I will go back on my cell phone in my mail and I will copy it onto a text and I will text it to him. So he's getting it electronically from me and that seems to work. Okay, John?
Yeah,
Okay, then I don't have to worry about, getting information to him, good, that's what I wanted to find out.
Well, if you've got a concern or something, let me know, because you may be getting him information and I'm not. But now we're starting to go far afield. This one's eating up a lot of
Stay
stuff.
stay in the motion.
Yeah, let's
Stay in the motion.
let's stay on this one. So I think the perspective is, let's pick an author.
it was already suggested, you do it.
Yeah, I make a motion.
I don't care if it's me or anybody else. I have no problem.
I would like to make a motion that, Rich write a letter to Northern Waters requesting an informational meeting with our full board for the reason of new board member education and ongoing board member,
Questions?
enlightenment.
Yes, and I
No, I
second
think I'm
that.
already enlightened.
Okay, second. All right. Any question, any discussion on that one?
Well, no, does it have to be seconded?
I second.
Oh, you did.
She already did. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No, and I think Robert's rule says I can explain my no vote.
Go ahead.
$1 is a big bet for me. I will bet $1 that we will get no cooperation from Northern Waters. And that, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. We will get no cooperation from them because so far, how they have acted does not show me good faith.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that.
So
No.
you have the vote, we got one no vote?
Yes.
That's it, so I'm writing a letter asking for that meeting, and, I will, as I construct this letter, get it off to everybody for feedback. This is a letter simply asking, just to clarify, for the meeting.
Yep.
Not laying out questions, problems, issues, just asking for a meeting from the full board, that we wanna have a full board meeting with them.
Right.
Send it out, we'll approve it, we'll send it down the highway. The bottom line is, then we wait for their response and take it from there, adjust to that. Okay, let's move on, because I made a commitment to keep this board meeting short, and you can see that's not gonna happen. Civility and board training, I just put that on there, that's been discussed in the past, is that in process? Do us new board members need to know anything about that?
We are going to be having a meeting, it's August 4th, I have to look at my minutes, with, bylaws training and our trustee handbook.
We're having a
So, but
meeting,
we're having two separate meetings. First I have to set up the one, and then, cause it'll be 2 hours, and then we'll have another meeting later.
are these in-person meetings, Zoom meetings,
Video.
phone meetings,
Zoom.
video meetings?
Mhm.
Okay. So you will get that information out as soon as possible to all the board members under blind cover.
Yes.
And I'll keep this very brief, but I just want to clarify, how do those correspond with all of the things that you sent us on the trainings coming out in August, which I have all in my calendar?
Oh.
And is there overlap in some of those?
Jamie was not sure how much was covered in each of those. She just sets up the training, puts the teachers in place, and then they cover whatever they feel is covered under that heading. So she wasn't sure how much it was gonna be repetitive, so she suggested that you keep these as well as going
Got
to
it.
those.
I don't know what this is, could someone elaborate or elucidate?
We're just,
Do you wanna-
video training on bylaws and then another one on our trustees handbook. But it could be redundant because we're also having other training, so maybe we should just do that training. If it is not complete, then we can do this after. Maybe we should do the other first.
It was
In
my-
case it's redundant,
It was
Yeah.
my understanding that the board had made a decision on this previously, is that the fact?
we did.
So we should have, if we're gonna say, let's go with one training first, that's great, let's pick that one as you're informed about it, and let the rest of the members know, and so we can schedule it. Sound fair?
Barb, yeah, Barb, what's the dates of those again? I
You
mean,
have to find it.
I know, I think we had it before, but either way, if it's redundant, okay, but I think, Barb, your suggestion about going to these trainings that are coming from the state first, and if we're not happy, then let's do more.
Yeah, I think that we could be doing, just repeating ourselves. I think we should do one, cancel mine, and then do the one that you have, and maybe it'll cover everything.
I was gonna say, all you need to do for the trustee training is sign up, they will be recorded, so if we're signed up, you know, the library can sign up, then we'd have access to those links of the recording if for some reason not everyone can do it at the time that they're scheduled.
Okay, have the other board, have all four existing board members, pre-existing board members, been given this information?
I've sent information to everyone.
Everyone, is it everybody, all of us?
Including me,
Most of
including me,
I-
everyone?
Yeah, well, I'll double check, but I know at the time it came out, I sent it to everyone who was on the board at that time.
Okay, three of us weren't, so you might.
But I
you
can
might wanna
resend
double-
it out anytime.
And these are in
I
August?
will do that. Yeah, it's in
Like coming up
August,
in August.
yeah.
But they are recorded too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they're
what I was
recorded.
just gonna say, cause
But
I got
I
it,
will
and
resend that
it's like,
trustee training.
we can do that at our
So
leisure.
you can,
Yeah.
yeah, you can shift the time and do it when
Yes,
you want.
Cause the recordings are
So
available.
this is not a group meeting or
No.
a live presentation. Okay, that shouldn't be that big of a problem. If you can just make sure the information gets out to everybody.
Okay.
I just wanted to follow up on that.
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Any more
we'll
questions
have
on
to
civility or
remind
board training?
Yes, that we're canceling the other two and just doing ours.
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you say that's?
We don't-
One more.
I don't have any access to the other two.
Okay, I gave that to you somewhere.
Lawnmower, the one that we chose last month
Is
is
back
back ordered. So I have been taking my real mower, which is a push mower,
Oh my God.
and I've been doing the lawn itself. It only takes like 10-15 minutes. However, if the grass gets too long, it won't take it down, and I've been doing it once a week for that reason. Rich has suggested that I have better use of my time than out mowing. And my husband has informed me that nobody else is gonna use the real mower because he doesn't want anyone injured on it and he doesn't wanna be liable for it. So, now the question is, do we want to look to see what lawnmowers are available and pick the best one at this time, or how do you wanna move forward?
That's where I'm going. It's a lawnmower. Let's buy one. It's not that hard. It's just a lawnmower. I've checked with, my orientation would be if we can buy local, why not buy local? I've already checked with, Hardware Hank. They carry steel lawnmowers. They got the perfect one. They had one in stock. They sold it and they have no idea when the next one's coming. Because apparently these things are in high demand. But what I would suggest here is, if everybody knows what a real lawnmower is, you know, the old fashioned big reel thing, they are dangerous, they're exposed blades, they're sharp. So I understand why we don't want other people using them. I would suggest we simply go out and scout around and find who's got a lawnmower, and $100 one way or the other, buy the lawnmower. It's a lawnmower. Now, the bigger question will ultimately be, put in the back of your minds, that when we get this brand new high-tech fangled electric lawnmower that you can cut off all sorts of parts with, who are gonna let use it? Because I was told that we have some middle school kids that would use it. And I would suggest to you, not to be the wet blanket, that if it's your middle school kid and they're using our electric lawnmower and they lop off part of their foot, their 3 or 4 fingers, what the first thing that's gonna happen is, after they're taken care of, is we're gonna get a summons from an attorney and these kids will pay a load of money. So it's an unfortunate reality. We're gonna have to figure out how we handle that one. It's unfortunate. This is where you get criticism as a board, because somebody in town will say, well, that's stupid, just have a kid cut the lawn. It's not that easy anymore.
No, it's not for schools.
It's
No.
never been easy for this library to get somebody to cut the grass.
It goes way back.
Or shovel.
Yes.
Now, we could always buy a goat and then have a barbecue at the end of the year, but people would object to that.
I know
So
someone
just
has a
keep the
goat,
goat
so
in
we
the-
could fence
in the
the yard
fence.
and let 'em
You
have
got a
that.
fence going.
There you go.
Bella
So-
has a goat.
So bottom line is, I would suggest that we empower Jackie to go forward and find us a lawnmower. And if in the short run, we have to use the real mower, that's fine. I'm busy for the next 2 weeks for a variety of things, but if you need somebody to cut the lawn, call me, I'll come and cut the lawn.
Yeah.
But when we get the electric one, you know, there's a lot of people, okay, I'm trying to be careful here, I'm trying to reel it in. There's a lot of people that have suggested all sorts of things we can do for the library. Aren't there some adults out there that would be happy to donate it? You know, I've looked at the lawn, it's the size of this room, really, when you figure out all the stuff that's in the middle of it.
And we're doing that too, yeah, I think.
You're talking about
volunteers
the
like-
property next door? I
I-
thought-
Does that,
I
does
think
that
the
get
town
loaded?
is doing
The
that.
town is
The
doing
town's
that as
doing
of
it.
right now.
Now, again,
it's-
what complicates there, I can tell you at the town, we have 2 highway department guys. We have a kid that's been part-time, that's working full-time in the summer. Our lead highway department supervisor just had a heart attack last week. He's off on rehabilitation, we're not sure when he's gonna get back, so we got 2 full-time guys, so we've already been putting people on notice that if you're expecting our normal gravel, lawn cutting, highway type services in the summer, we might be a little challenged to be as Johnny on the spot as normal. So keep an eye on that so it doesn't get out of control. If it starts getting out of control, call me. I have a riding lawn tractor in a trailer that I can bring over here and knock it out probably in 20 minutes.
Okay.
So
Do we need a motion?
that's what I'm gonna go to. So, do we feel we need a motion to empower Jackie to go out and spend, if it's $100 or $150 more on a lawnmower?
Yeah.
Or we just admittedly say, go do it?
Go do it, and then ask us to volunteer to tell us when there's a need and we'll come and do it.
I agree. So I'm good with that. So go find the lawnmower, Jackie.
Okay.
If you can buy local, that's great.
I will check with them.
And the advantage in buying local, by the way, if we got one and it breaks down, Harbor Hanks, a steel repair center, they could repair it for us. They don't happen to have one. But I will check with Brock again tomorrow and see if there's any way he can special order one in or something, because it was very close in price to the Riley deal.
Okay, that's fine, sure.
And it had the plastic catcher and all that happy stuff. All right, that's a lawnmower. This next one's quick. There was a discussion about physically sending the minutes and agendas to Northern Waters and DPI. Again, looking at all the minutia Jackie asked to do, my perspective there is pretty simple. And I'm not doing this to be mean-spirited or anything. It's 2024, everything's online. Our agendas are online, our minutes are online. If they wanna find them, we're not hiding them, they're out there to be found. I would suggest, you know, if we've been spoon feeding it and sending them to them, we say, go online and find them, they're there.
So I can post the approved minutes online again?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe we voted on this at
We did.
the last meeting.
They-
We've
the
already,
agenda
we've
and-
already really addressed this.
Yes.
Okay, generator.
I am still waiting for, I sent all the pictures I could of it, and I have not yet heard back from them on a, price.
All right, now this is a backup generator, correct?
This is, I mean, our generator technically works. The last time it was started back in April before that final snowstorm, and it took 50 tries to get it started. He talked to Warren told him how to get it started, and then he was able to start it, but it is 20 years old. So it'd be something to, you know, definitely keep in mind for future purchases.
So we're looking at getting it repaired right now, or
It's work-
or serviced?
It was serviced and working as of the spring.
All right, so it's an advisory to say we got a generator that's old, and we gotta keep it in mind for the
Mhm.
future. All right, any questions on that one?
No.
And second reading, I put second reading on here because I think there was some confusion that I heard as an audience member last time on second reading. Don't wanna spend a boatload of time on this one. As I understand, and I looked at how they do it in Congress, second reading, you get, a bill gets written, it gets put on the floor, it gets read, that's called the first reading. Then it goes through the sausage making process, where everybody is sticking in whatever and fighting it out and arguing blah, 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 blah. And they get it almost done or pretty much done or where they think it's done. And then before anybody votes on it, they bring it up for a second reading. And they read it, they may tweak it or amend it from there, they may sink the whole thing and go back to square one. But at that point, whenever they conclude the second reading, now you vote on it, and that's how it's processed. Anybody disagree with that?
No, and that's also what Robert's rule says, but we didn't do that, so.
I'm happy I'm in agreement with Robert's rules.
And we did, I'm gonna disagree, we did read part of it and approved it, and we had 4 pages left to do a second reading. We did approve the first pages, that's in the minutes.
But the
And
second
that's
reading
the-
includes the entire motion.
Right.
No, we did a second reading, this is just the last 4 pages. We approved at the first part of the
That's not what
material
I-
selection process, it's in the minutes.
Well,
It's-
I
we
would,
approved in the
I would,
minutes.
here, I'm gonna cut to the chase on this one pretty easy.
Yeah.
If in fact it's in the minutes and we did a second reading on the bulk of it, for the next meeting, be prepared to show up with a copy of those minutes indicating that, so we can all confirm that.
I will
I
find
think
that.
that's a good
I will
idea.
find that.
And the recording if possible.
I'll look for that, okay, maybe it's from last
John?
one.
And
That one.
once that is approved, we go back to the social media and have
do
a
the
second
same,
reading
because
on
we
that.
did not have a second
We
reading
did
of
not
the
have
social
one on
media
that.
policy.
We did
So
not
there
have
you
a
go.
second reading on that.
We'll do both.
Well, let me ask you this,
It's a different topic.
it is,
No,
it's completely.
how can it be a different topic?
But it
We're
is.
talking-
No,
It
di-
says
it's a-
second readings.
It's, that was just in general. We've kind of moved off, my intent here was just to make everybody aware of the general process of how a second reading works, because what I heard last time was not wholly correct in what was put out, because,
And the way the social media was treated was not wholly correct, and nobody wants to make a correction.
Well, the problem, the issue there, John, in all fairness, if that social media policy was passed and is on the books, it's on the books and it's a done deal. Unless somebody's gonna go back and make a motion to amend it, and you're gonna have to run that in front of the full board and get full board, vote and approval to do that.
And if I could just add to that, just from the historical perspective, no one called for a second reading after the social media. And if we really do, so be it, like, let's go back and do that, but it got called for a second reading and it didn't happen. So
So
that's
just-
my very simple point.
Just on the technical side, to go back and do that, John, because it's already been passed, it's already in active policy, you would have to have a board member make that motion at a time of discussion, get it seconded, and get voted to open it up to a second reading. And I would suggest at this point in time, my personal perspective is we got a lot of other fish to fry and we should move forward, not backwards. That's my honest opinion.
We disagree, but
Okay.
And you mean for another meeting, is that what you're
Yes.
saying? Got it.
All right. New business, Friends of the Library report, Jane, back from Australia.
Oh,
Very simply, the Friends have already started planning for the fall book sale, and we're looking for vendors. So we'll be on September 21st, Saturday.
September,
21st,
Is that a Saturday?
Yes.
It's a good date, that's the opening of bowl
at the
season.
community center also.
oh,
At the community center.
And just so everybody knows, I have a copy of the minutes of the Friends of the Library minutes. I guess it's my understanding, these are given to me. I read them. I don't know if they've been distributed, I don't think they've been distributed to the board on a whole previously. I think Cassie would read them and give them back to Jackie and she'd file them. And that would be my intent to do. Because I would assume, Jane, that if there's anything interesting or remarkable from the Friends of the Library meeting in the minutes that involved or required our notice or feedback, you'd be telling us right now.
Yeah, Georgia.
Gene, do you need help on that event
Always,
to prepare for that?
always.
I'm
You know, we'll be
wondering if it's
putting out
possible.
more notices as we get closer to volunteers to move books, because we'll be moving all the boxes out of the basement, plus the tables and other materials by trailer over to the community center, and at the end of the sale, they all have to come back. It's not sold.
Jan?
Well, I was just gonna say, just in terms of structure of the agenda, which totally, thank you for all the hard work. Maybe consider putting Friends of the Library like earlier on before old business, so that, you know, you don't have to sit here all night long waiting. to
That's a
announce
fine
that there's a book
suggestion.
sale.
Would you be
September.
amenable to that, Gene?
Whatever
And
works.
lawnmowers if possible, although that
Move
takes it
Friends
out of new
of-
business.
Move the Friends Library report up into maybe a report section.
That's a good idea.
Now, to be honest with you, I just went with the old format from
Sure.
the old stuff, but it's a
Yeah.
good idea. And I agree with that. Okay, new employee recruiting. Before anybody gets any heartburn here, I don't think it's a secret to know that Bella is going to be leaving us on September 13th. Because as they say, she is with child and is not coming back. Jackie, I think you indicated to me that that's a 42 hours a week. Did I hear that right?
She is, what she normally works is Tuesday morning, all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, every other Friday afternoon, and 1 or 2 Saturdays a month.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be snarky, but what's the hours? What's the
Oh.
total hours?
Let me write it down.
Now, she's writing it down because in a meeting that Dr. Saarinen and I had with Jackie, one of her suggestions was, and I've told her to go out and post, already told her to go out and post the job opening for a hire and whatnot. She had come back and said what she would like to do, as opposed to hire one person as she's got to fill the job, is to take those hours, whatever it turns into, and hire 2 people for the job. Not increase the hours, not increase the budget, just increase the manpower. And I think that's a good idea if we can do it. We know in this day and age, it's hard to hire anybody, but if we can get 2 of them hired, why not? They can split the hours, and then we would have additional vacation coverage, et cetera, et cetera.
It's anywhere from 26 to 31 hours a week.
Okay. So I've told Jackie to go out and look for them. I will ask Jackie, once she gets the resumes in and whatnot, to bring that back to the board at that point in time, and we can make the final decision on whether to go with 1 or with 2. Good to go? All right, moving on. Social services resource sheet. In my discussion with our library employees, Bella in particular, Bella told me she spends an extraordinary amount of time helping people in our community with social services issues. That people will walk in here saying, I just lost my apartment, where do I go? We're a small town, this is all we got. I mean, it's here, or the community, or the town office, and the town office isn't as accessible. By the same token, again, I wanna help provide those services to our residents and whatnot, but we're not funded as a social service agency, and it sounds like it eats up a lot of time. What I would suggest is that we perhaps ask somebody who spends perhaps a lot of time in Washburn, that's near the county resources, that will have lots of social services information available, to perhaps work with Jackie and our library employees to put together a social services resource sheet.
I would be happy to take that on. I'm assuming you're looking at me for a reason.
You live in Washburn, Jan?
I do.
Really? Yes, if you'd volunteer to do that,
Sure.
I think Jan would be the ideal person
Absolutely.
to do that, because she's I think we do need to look in town here and say, do we have any resources available in town? And there are some, but not to the extent that the county can provide. But it has been very clear to me in my initial pass through here that our library people do lots and lots of things we don't see them doing, that I would say it's incumbent upon us to do a better job of helping them be more efficient and figure out ways on how to look at doing this stuff. Because it's our job as a board to make Jackie more successful, to make our other employees more successful, because in turn that makes our library more successful. So if you're willing
And if I
to,
can just add, I think, I mean, there may be, it may be worth asking some other libraries in the area, what are they doing, how are they addressing it? Because there might be grant opportunities or something for some help,
Well, and-
outside help, consulting help. And so
and as Jan will find and knows, there are other libraries in Bayfield County certainly that come from the same little kind of small towns.
Yeah.
Now granted, Washburn and Bayfield are a little bigger and a little different, but there are other rural libraries that are very similar to us.
Can I also say that Catholic Charities is in all of the Catholic churches, you can go there for a lot of information. Just in the last month, Catholic Charities in Superior had 150 calls and they met face-to-face with 1/3 of those people. So you have Catholic Church here, they have Catholic Charities,
And I
St.
think
Vincent de Paul, they're very, excuse me,
No, go ahead.
they're very helpful and they offer money, rent, because my church uses them very frequently.
And
So
I know,
that's just one suggestion, Jan, that they are part of the system.
and I know, for
Right.
example, Knights of Columbus at St. Michael's Church here in town, they, especially in the winter, typically they do a clothes drive. They have clothes available, adult and children, so there are a variety of things we can do. As you start getting into it, you start opening up pathways. I'm gonna toss it in your hands, Jan, and let you run with it. If you need help or feedback,
Isn't there a separation of church and state?
okay, I got it, Jan. Nope, not in this particular case. We're people helping people.
Really? Okay,
People
I
helping
just
people.
wanna remember that.
All right, 2025 budget prep. It's July, it's gonna be August when you blink. We need to start thinking about our 2025 budgets. The town is already starting to squeeze the other departments. If you haven't heard, you will be soon. I'm just putting that out there for you to start looking at and thinking about. Annual employee evaluations are in November, same sort of thing. Just sort of keep your eyes open on that deal. Bylaws review, as I've looked at the bylaws, and in a discussion with Cassie, I think our bylaws have remained pretty much unchanged for the last 20 years. I think we probably need to take a look at the bylaws. The one thing I have learned is if our bylaws bump up against state statutes will predominate. So,
Sorry.
go ahead, no, so we should look at it, we should look if we need to expand it, change it, or bring it into compliance with state statutes as opposed to having them run us over.
The copy that I have printed out says that they were amended and approved March 15th, 2023.
Yep, I was
I was
Really?
gonna say, there was some small.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Some small,
So
there were a few
so
adjustments at that
I
time.
just didn't wanna.
No, that's a
make
good
this
point,
look
that's a
so
good
bad
point,
at the
because
end of the-
Cassie told me they have remained substantially unchanged since,
Well, I think that's
for
probably
20
true,
years.
substantially.
Yeah,
So-
substantially they have been.
So I guess the question then to be asked is, do we need to look at our bylaws for a quick review and see if we're doing fine? Because I will tell you, the one section there that caught my attention is where it specifically defines the size of this library board, which
Yeah.
does not line up with state statutes. It's not far off, but it doesn't line up.
I think that's the idea of a quick review. I don't think it'd be big extensive, cause the board did address it a year
Okay.
ago. But a quick look on any glaring
Well, here,
things.
why don't we do it like this, and why don't I just suggest, everybody take a look at the bylaws. If you have any heartburn or questions, bring it back at the next board meeting, and we will try and address them one by one. Probably the most efficient way to go. Listing of board member information. I did this right out of the blocks. We list all of the board members, library board members, on our library website. There are various schools of thought of what information we should put out there. As I discussed many hours ago, we are public people. In this day and age, I can probably find out your grandma's birth date in about 3 minutes. So it's out there anyway. Right now, I don't think Jan was listed the last time I looked, unless you've put her.
He was
on.
listed, but he only has a PO box.
No, not John,
Oh, John.
Jan.
Oh, Jan, yeah, we haven't added her yet
Okay.
because she was a new
Okay.
addition.
The bottom line is we list the other 7 members 3 different ways. And the more thought I give this, there's no right way or wrong way or whatever. Some people will be open to full contact. Some people on this board have had their property vandalized. Some people don't want to have that open access. They want to protect themselves a little bit more. What I'm going to suggest is that Jackie contacts every board member individually and sees how they individually want to be listed, and we do it like that. Whether it's different or not, that meets the needs of all the individuals. Any thoughts, comments?
I agree.
How were they listed before?
What was that?
How were they listed?
I think most of them, 4 or 5 are name and address. One of them is name, just post office box. One of them is name, address, and phone number. One of them is name, address, phone number, and email.
From what I heard from Sherry, the last time we updated the website and when a reporter asked for, board member, contact information, Sherry had said that legally, all they need to have on the website is their name and address. They don't have to have phone number or email.
That's my understanding too, and your address can be a post office box.
And what about if we just keep it simple and go with that, like, instead of having us all, them all be different?
I'm not arguing.
If we could
Name
just,
and address.
your name and address, and like, why make it complicated?
I'll argue against you.
Okay.
Not that I disagree, because I've had one board member come to me and say, I wanna be fully accessible. I want my phone number on there, I want my email number, my email address on there. And if that's what you want, that's great. I mean, I'm listed all over the place anyway, it makes no difference to me. So,
I am too, I'm happy to have it all out there, but I think also, as you just said, people can also figure out who you are.
eventually, they track you down. So,
So bare minimum, we're saying people's names and addresses will be out there.
right,
And if you want more information, you could have it out there.
We'll say it.
yeah.
Well, I can put it differently. All that is required
Is
is your address.
Name and address.
If you wish to give more, you can.
Yep.
That's a
Right,
fair
that's what I
comment,
meant.
so that's what I'm gonna say. Jackie, let's revert them all to name and address, unless contacted by any given board member that wants more information on there, and then modify theirs.
Okay, so I could, they will contact me if they want more information out.
I am telling our board members right now, if you want more than name and address on there, contact Jackie.
Okay, Jackie, do you only have my P.O. box? I only want P.O. box.
That's all that's
Okay,
on there right now.
that's all that's on there. Do we also wanna have their terms on there?
I don't know why.
Well, it was just a,
Oh, by the way, thank you for bringing it up. All of you have a list of library board member terms in there. You can disregard those, they're inaccurate.
please, let's get together and get that accurate then, so
Well,
that I
it
have
won't,
that.
it won't be very hard to do.
Okay.
Mostly it's the new ones that are wrong. Okay, we're good with the listing of board member information? Filing submission dates, do we have any, my heartburn comes from a business perspective, again, I'll say it 1,000 times. Do we have anything coming up? Jeff, are you aware of any financial filings we have to do? Or any regulatory filings? I wanna make sure we miss nothing and don't end up in bad compliance situations or miss grant application deadlines or anything along those lines. I know we have a lot of things to talk about. I know we have differences in some things. My perspective is we can't take our eyes off the nuts and the bolts and the basic functionality of running the library and making it financially viable. Anything out there that anybody's aware of? Hearing none, I'll move on. Employee volunteer identification, we will talk about this more in our closed session. It has come up, and again, Dr. Sarin and I were at the same meeting. I'm trying to think of a tiptoe this one up. We occasionally have people that may wander into the library, maybe here on a regular basis, but intentionally, unintentionally, inadvertently, whatever, end up being presented or identified as library employees or library volunteers when in fact they are not. So Dr. Saarinen had a great idea that we should perhaps have, if not ID badges and name tags, which are a pain in the butt for people, colored lanyards that people can wear that identify them and take control of those lanyards so they're not available for anybody to walk in and grab one and pretend they're a library employee. I know it sounds crazy, but it's an issue. So I think just identifying, however you want to do it, colored lanyard, name tag, button.
I have some, clear plastic things that I could talk, volunteer, the word name volunteer on that we can put for lanyards.
If the board's good with it, I'd simply ask Jackie to figure out how to have our volunteers and our employees identifiable to the public so they know who in fact is.
Yes, good,
Yes.
We're good?
I don't
Of
think we need
course.
a motion.
No, we don't.
No.
Thank you very much. Annual report, we
Sorry,
got
just if I might, so that will get communicated to the volunteers, how will that get?
I will,
So that everybody knows.
I will present them with the lanyards. We only have like 2 or 3 volunteers, so
Oh,
I'll
okay.
make sure that they all each have that.
Yeah, this shouldn't be even if we had to buy something, I can't see where it would cost us more than $10.
Sure.
Annual report, again, just a reminder, the annual report's coming up. Jackie gave you a copy of last year's annual report so you can see what all goes into it. We need to be mindful of getting that done. I brought up a lot of these things tonight simply because I knew and I wanna make sure they're on the agenda. We're thinking about them and they don't get missed anywhere along the line. Last comment on here that I put on here is future improvement of the library. And somebody sent me a copy off of social media text that somebody had heartburn about what that meant. Pretty much means that, future improvement of the library. I would challenge and ask our library board members, which I think we do on a regular basis, to think how we can improve our library. What can we do to make our library better, to have greater scope, more reach, bigger, better, whatever. I'll get you.
I just wanna make sure about the, collaboration or the, possible merger.
Okay. I mean, even think outside of the box issues. In business, we did this all the time. We would sit in boardrooms and we would come up with the stupidest ideas you could come up with, and yet some of them panned out. And some of them turned out pretty valuable. And that's all I'm asking us to do is think about what other things we can do for the expansion, the viability, and the long-term success of our library.
We could come up with we need to come up with a new strategic plan. in the next
And that is a
round.
great idea. That would-
Strategic plan would incorporate that, which would be
That is-
a really great idea.
That is a great idea, that we should look at it.
Did you say that a new strategic plan is due soon?
I can't remember the actual dates, I wanna say it went through 2025, but I gotta verify.
Okay, so sometime it's not.
Yeah, so it's something that we
So,
could, yeah. move
if you're
forward.
saying, Jackie, that a new strategic plan is due, that would lead me to believe that we have an old strategic plan. All right, has the board seen that?
No.
The board that created it,
Is all dead?
is.
I think that would be good to have it.
I agree.
And then also a plan for how we'll do it, and a timeline.
Absolutely,
Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
let's
Well,
get it done.
we are just embarking on one at the comprehensive plan at the town. The county has just completed it, so we've got some pretty good blueprints on how to do that. So, but if you can dig that up, Jackie, Barb just died, and get a copy of that, it doesn't have to be tomorrow, I mean, do it at your leisure, to the board members to look at going forward. Now, without any further discussion, we are gonna move, the board is going to entertain a motion to move into closed session, to discuss confidential issues that have to do with patron information that are confidential to the public. So, at that point in time, I don't wanna read Rich through everybody outlet on the internet. I'm gonna ask that we, as this is the room we have, we close the building to access to everybody except the board members and Jackie.
Do we need a motion to do that?
Yes, because we
Yes.
have to entertain a motion
Yeah.
to move into closed session pursuant to 1985.
I'll make a motion that we.
Do we have a motion to move into closed session? Jan has made a motion.
A question. Do we also have to include in that we're going to reconvene after?
Well, interestingly enough,
I don't
that's
know
why I
what the law
that's
is.
why I put move in and out.
Yeah.
And I got called for a foot fault on that one, saying you don't wanna do that.
So we're gonna do this properly.
But it does say in the motion that it's reconvening. So
So.
I think the best way to make a motion, Jan, like we would do at the county, is to make a motion to go into, closed session, conduct a closed session, and when we're done with the closed session, then we make a motion at that point in time to reconvene into open session.
That's how I'm used to doing it.
At which point we'll adjourn.
So
Well,
I-
we'll talk about our next meeting date and then we'll adjourn.
So I will make a motion. to
Jan has
move
made a
into
motion to go into
closed
closed
I
session.
second.
Barb seconded, any discussion?
Pardon?
All in
What is
favor?
closed session on?
session. Aye.
Aye.
Statute,
sorry?
What is the subject of the closed section?
It's closed session. It's
No,
confidential.
no, you're supposed to be able to tell what
I'll
the
read it to
subject
you.
is.
It's pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 1985, subsection 1, subsection F and G. And in this case, I will tell you it has to do with, I've already said it 3 times, confidential patron information.
Okay, that's what I asked for.
And I've said it 3 times.
No, confidential.
Patron information.
Yes, I didn't hear it.
Okay, that's what it is.
Okay, I
It's
just
not
wanna
a-
make
not a-
sure it's on.
This is not a discussion as I've read on the internet.
I
about-
understand that.
About employee
I
relations and
understand
all
that.
stuff.
I think
So, if
it's
we.
Thanks, citizens.
Yes, if you
Yes,
would like to
thank
take,
you.
if you'd all like to, if you,